Hey James, hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Anish. Yeah, very well.
Yeah, so guys, we have somebody really special today, all the way from UK. We are T-Hub is doing a program with Innovate UK. It's a great platform for startups in UK to come over to India to explore the India Market Access Program and to explore India as such as a market opportunity. And James is doing some really great stuff and helping making that happen. So James, welcome to India.
Thank you.
So how do you find it so far?
Mind blowing.
Is it?
I love this place.
So do you have the usual complaints of spicy food and stuff like that, or is it okay for you?
It started off spicy. I've been here 2 weeks now. My tolerance has gone up. I think that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been exploring a bit more, making sure I go out, eat plenty of street food, that kind of stuff as well. You know, kind of push the boat out a little bit more. It helps you've got great beer here. I mean, that's obviously something. There's amazing amounts of craft beer here to help kind of wash it down.
Great. So, are we successful in Indianizing you to a certain extent?
I mean, if I could move here tomorrow, I would.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
Great.
I think that's probably a yes.
Great. So, of course, I know stuff about you, James, and we've interacted previously. But it'd be really great if you could tell our audience about who you are, where you come from, and a bit of a background of what do you do.
Me myself.
Yes.
So I work at Innovate UK, which I think we'll talk about a little bit. I've got a background in sustainability and innovation, basically. So most of what I've done over the years has been about helping businesses understand the opportunities from innovation. So I've been at Innovate UK for about 10 years. Before that, I was at a sustainable development charity for 10 years. So I was specifically looking at kind of future trends. So how do businesses prepare for the future trends and how do you innovate to meet those future trends? So working with kind of big blue chip businesses around the world. And before that, I spent sort of 7 years hugging trees in a rainforest, basically in Tanzania. So,
wow.
So my background's an ecologist, I guess. That's kind of where I came from. And so that sort of that ecological economics, and then how do you translate that, I guess, into some of the challenges we see now. So it's a bit of a meandering path, but
yeah. So that's really an amazing journey, from Tanzania to innovation, right? Over a period of 17 years, 10, 17 years?
I'm a bit older than that, but thank you. Yeah, that's very kind of you.
Yeah. So that journey is an amazing journey, like innovation, looking at future trends from coming out from, the rainforests of Tanzania. Yeah. How did that pan out? How was your introduction to innovation, so to speak?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess I've always been curious. I've always kind of wanted to see how the world works and how it changes. I think I've worked in lots of different segments. So when I was working in Tanzania, that was quite sort of in academia. So I was working in academia, then I worked in the private sector a bit, and then I worked in the third sector, and I'm working Innovate UK in the public sector. So I've sort of been able to come at challenges from different angles. I like looking at problems from different sides. And I think there's something about sustainability, which is kind of the core of it, which is where you have to look at a problem from lots of different angles. There's no one answer, there's no one right answer. It sort of depends on where you're looking.
Correct.
And it's a really complex problem, and that's fundamental to innovation and to kind of business success as well. It's about how do you solve this kind of complex 3D problem that you're addressing, and helping businesses do that. I think is kind of core to innovation. So yeah, it sort of kind of adds up to something. I think it's quite interesting bringing lots of different viewpoints in, and I guess that's what I've been trying to do.
Amazing. So the ability of looking at a problem statement and solving for it from various dimensions, from various directions, I think that's what probably draws all of us into this game, right? I think that's what excites all of us. But that gave a good segue into the organization you're working for right now, that is Innovate UK.
Yeah.
Would love to know a little more about what Innovate UK does. Is it a government organization, public sector organization, is it a private organization? What are the broad themes that Innovate UK works towards?
Yeah.
Would love to know more about that.
Okay, so Innovate UK, we're the UK government's business innovation funding agency, which I guess is a bit of a mouthful. So we're fully funded by central government, Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. And whenever the UK has a target to increase CR&D spending or to drive innovation, a large amount of that funding then kind of comes channeling out through us.
Got it.
So I guess fundamentally, there's kind of two things that Innovate UK does. The first is we hand out lots of money and grants, and that's why people like us. That's why people want to talk to me. That's why I can knock on any door and kind of get in, because there's a chance of some money. But so there's quite a lot of grant funding that we hand out in different areas, and I'll come on to that in a moment. But then kind of, because we're an innovation funding agency, that the most interesting thing isn't really the money for us, or not for me at least. It's about the connections that you're making with that money, right? And the changes that you're making. So when we do grant funding, Most of the time it has to be collaborative. So we're making sure we bring together businesses or actors who haven't worked before. Because it's when you get those different ideas together, that's kind of when you create something novel and interesting. And that we'll kind of come back to it in the future, I think, I guess. But that's sort of what we're doing here. That's part of the point of this, is it's about that kind of connection. It's about bringing the different ideas together. Now, as far as the areas that Innovate looks at, we're a government agency, so that, that shifts from time to time. But broadly, the kind of the core areas we're looking at the moment is there's a big strand around kind of net zero. And that covers sort of net zero heating, heat, power, mobility, manufacturing, circular economy, net zero finance, and the area that I'm in, which is about net zero places, so about cities and how are you improving quality of life and making cities more sustainable. Then we've got a strand of work around kind of health and agri, and another strand of work particularly around kind of digital and AI. So those are the sort of three core buckets, but within those we work across a number of different areas, and I say the one that I'm in particularly is this sort of net zero space, clean tech.
Got it. So which segue into the next question, right? What is this program about, right? And the program that we are running along with T-Hub. Right? What is this program about? And did you consider other countries as well when you were considering for this program? And if yes, then why did India make the cut? What is so exciting about doing it in India?
Lots of questions there. So first question, what's this program all about? I mean, so fundamentally, kind of innovation happens at the edges, right? It's where you're bringing people, ideas together that wouldn't otherwise have met.
Correct.
And we do that domestically, and that's fine. But domestically, there's it'll be similar how people think. They're approaching this challenges in the same sort of way, possibly. And so, working in the city space, one thing you see is challenges are kind of common across cities. They express themselves differently, but all cities have got a problem about how you're meeting the needs of your citizens fundamentally, and that's how you're providing shelter, how you're getting people around, how you're managing your resources, your air quality, how you're giving people a good quality of life, successful jobs. True. So at the macro level, all city challenges are the same no matter where you are, but the way they're expressed is different, and the way that they're solved locally is also different. So what's really interesting is, and part of this program is, we've got a number of businesses who are sort of solving challenges across various different systems and sectors in the UK. But we know that those same challenges are being solved very differently kind of here in India, and that gives us sort of two issues or opportunities, I guess. The first is those businesses can't come and just land and off you go, right? Because the way the challenges express themselves is different, and they have to kind of tailor things. But it's of more interest and importance, I guess, or equal importance to me, is the fact that we can learn a lot about how those same challenges are being addressed here
in India.
How do you bring that different thinking together, and how do you then use that to create something that's a much better, probably more resilient solution? Because if you can solve the same sort of problem in two or more locations, that means that solution is probably more applicable to additional locations beyond that, okay? So you can then look at how you roll it out elsewhere, either across the UK, other bits of India, third markets. So that's sort of one of the reasons kind of why we're here. As I say, we've got these 10 companies. We're here to help them understand what the Indian market looks like, to help them launch. I mean, that's the idea, ultimately, is to give them the tools and the skills and the knowledge to be able to launch successfully in the Indian market. You asked, where else are we working? So I run international kind of net zero programs, a number of locations. So I run programs in South Korea and in Taiwan, Japan, across Europe. I've got programs running in Nigeria and Kenya and South Africa. But India's probably one of our biggest programs. India is one of only 4 locations outside the UK where Innovate UK has an office. So India is kind of a core market for us and a core territory. I've brought groups of companies here 2 or 3 times so far. So they've come for a week, and we can kind of get onto that. That's how I met T-Hub in the first place back in 22. And they come for a week to kind of try and understand what the market looks like. But what we discovered really rapidly was you can't just bring people here for a week and expect that that's kind of enough to understand what you're going to do. So we need a much more in-depth kind of immersive experience, which is kind of what this is about. Why India, I think, was kind of the third question. I mean, I've said I loved India already. So, I mean, there's that. I think there's the scale of the opportunity here is enormous. I think the scale of the ambition here is enormous. I think the ability to do business here, there's good links between UK and India, and
Yes,
the
yes.
opportunity to work here is kind of easier than some of the
To a
other
great
markets.
extent, even the governmental procedure is also very similar. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's an offshoot of the Raj that we had.
I mean, as I said, I kind of work in other bits of South Korea and Taiwan and places. It's much easier doing business here as a UK business than it is kind of in those sort of markets. Likewise, it's much easier doing business here than it is in African markets very often, or indeed in European markets. So it's there's an ease of doing business. It's a kind of a soft landing to some extent. It's not so easy theoretically doing business. I'm not saying it's easy to do business here. As we've discovered and as we know, it's not easy to come and do business here. But the opportunities are here. And then, as I say, I think there's that scale of ambition which I think is phenomenal, and it's something we've seen over the course of the last 2 weeks. I think it's the drive, the ability to kind of think differently, to think disruptively, to think about radically doing things different rather than kind of incrementally. And I think there's opportunities to do that kind of radical thinking here, which we might not have quite so much in the UK. I think we've got quite a lot of fixed infrastructure. I think it's quite a lot of...
It's too structured to try something new.
Yeah. It's too structured. It's too sewn up. It's quite difficult for people to kind of do something radically different and disruptive. I think given the way that India is exploding and the kind of the pace of change and the skills and the talent here as well and the opportunity, I've been absolutely flabbergasted by almost everybody we've met when we've met kind of the startups, and the quality of the interactions we've had, I've got to say, also has been amazing in the people we met. But people trying to do things that are truly disruptive. They're not thinking small. Like, it's not a small little incremental shift people are doing. They're like changing the world. Like they've got eyes on the big prize. Another thing I think that I'm particularly interested in is how are you looking at how you spread opportunities and businesses kind of across society as a whole. And I think a lot of the focus that we've seen, particularly around kind of clean tech here, is around that kind of the social side of things as well, about how are you making it accessible for the broad swathe of the population, how are you developing business models and solutions.
Like you already said, right? India is a very diverse country, right? I mean, we're like actually 30 countries.
And that's the thing. So that's the thing. We keep talking about India. Like we're aware that actually India, like you say, is 29 or 30 different countries, states, and that it's very different. So we're here in Hyderabad. I think we've been talking about we're going to come to India and do stuff, but actually I think most of the businesses are going to come to Hyderabad and do stuff because it's clear that you need to tackle things on a kind of a state-by-state basis. So, but anyway, sorry.
India is actually a pretty diverse country, right? So, do you think like startups from UK, for example, right? Geographically, it's a small enough place, right? But then when they move to India, right, the language changes every 500, 600 kilometers. You've got so many dialects. The demographics change. The body language, the mannerism change every 600, 700 kilometers. Do you think startups from UK would be able to cope up with that, and do you able to find their way, navigate their way through all of these diversity?
I guess we'll find out.
That's
one of the things.
And I guess that's what we are here for,
and
to help you navigate.
And that's kind of why we're here with T-Hub. That's why we're here kind of working with you on that. I think they think they can. I don't think they understand that kind of difference at the operational level that they kind of need to experience. Yeah, I think we're going to find out. I suspect what's going to happen is they're going to find. So I was talking to many of them today. I think they had been looking at various different bits of India. I think having been here now in Hyderabad, having spoken to you and to the T-Hub team and heard all the ecosystem here, I think they're increasingly thinking, okay, we just need to start here and like work out how we're doing things here, and then go from there, and spread out more slowly. I don't think they had much of an appreciation of that before. It's like, oh, we're going to go and do this here, and we're going to do it there, and we're going to do it over there, and we're going to do it there. It's like, no, okay, we're going to bring things back. We're going to rein things in a bit. We're going to start strong in a smaller place, in a state, and then go from there. But let's see. We'll see. Some of them will manage it. Some of them won't. That's the nature of it.
The probability is always there. The probability is always there to manage it, and some might want to pivot or reinvent the way they are looking at engaging with the whole ecosystem. And that's where the value of such a program becomes so important. Right? To at multiple levels, right? One is to give you a set of a reality check, to give you a sound check on where you stand at, right? Do you want to pivot at a complete level? Do you want to pivot at a partial level? Do you want to start in one place and go, or do you want to start in 5 or 6 locations simultaneously? If you want to start in one place, then which is the right place for you to start? Right. Depending on that, I think they will probably scale up. So, what next for the India, UK, Innovate UK, and T-Hub? Where do you see this whole engagement sort of going?
Hopefully, a long engagement for a fruitful engagement. I think we're not here just to kind of pop in and pop out again. I think it's, like I say, India is a kind of a core market for us. We've got various other programs that are running here. We bring groups of companies here, as I say, and there are more of those that are going to come over. We have bilaterals running with kind of Indian government around kind of innovation programs. This is the first incubator that we've kind of run in India. We have incubator programs running elsewhere, but sort of not in India before. So I think what's clear is we want a kind of a rich and a kind of deep end-to-end kind of support for UK businesses and for Indian businesses collaborating with UK businesses. So the idea is that this is the first of, we're here with the first kind of cohort at the moment, but this is the first of a number of cohorts. We want to have like a proper relationship. We want to work out how we support one another, how we work more closely with T-Hub and how T-Hub works with us. And we want to bring more groups of businesses here. We want to see them being successful, but I guess I also want to see how we help more Indian businesses kind of link with them and come back to the UK market. We want to change the world together.
And again, I think, like you rightly brought out before, right? The scale at which India operates at, right? It's at a different level. And now you add to that where India is going over the next 10, 12, 15, 20 years, right? Now that makes it even more exciting for startups and organizations, institutions from out of India to come and work and operate in India. I mean, we've been talking about multiple times, right? That even if we continue growing at the 7% that we're growing right now, right? I think in another 10 years, right, we are going to be twice the economy. That's a $4 trillion per year opportunity that is getting built out. Right. And that's really exciting. At every level, that's exciting for anybody who's looking for a growth market, looking for a sizable chunk of market to sort of fend for yourself. What role do you kind of see technology playing out in the entire net zero story out there? Right. I think because technology is changing so fast. Right. And obviously, I think net zero is a sort of a goal that everybody wants to achieve. At the unit level and at the country as a whole level. Right? So, what kind of a role do you see technology playing in that?
Excellent question. So, where to begin? I think the first thing to acknowledge is net zero is fundamentally a behavioural change program. I guess in the UK, a lot of it's behavioural change, at least anyway. It's about you need to get everybody wanting to move. You have to get everybody supporting and move to a net zero way of life. Most people don't have the luxury of just choosing net zero as the way that they're going to operate, right? They don't have, it can be more costly or whatever else it might be. So nobody's going to choose net zero, right? That's not going to be their first choice. Their first choice, right? What they're going to choose is they're going to choose the things, the co-benefits that net zero brings. They're going to choose it's more convenient. So you have to sort of meet people's needs in a net zero way rather than pushing net zero tech, right? Net zero tech. So you need that technology to sort of sit behind it, but to get the adoption, you also need that kind of behavioral change, consumer kind of uptake piece. So I guess the role of, and in the UK, for example, we've got lots of technology. There's lots of technology that's already been kind of created. The problem isn't technology, the problem is adoption of technology. And that's always kind of, we're interested in about how do you get that adoption of technology. There's no point having the best technology in the world if nobody wants it, nobody buys it, nobody uses it, right? And so there's innovation needed in technology. I mean, there is some there already, but there's also innovation needed in the business models that make that technology attractive. And I guess that kind of comes back to some of what we were saying before, is about how you're developing those business models that make net zero behaviors and technologies mainstream. Because we're not going to get to net zero unless everybody does their bit. But to do that, it has to be attractive to people and they have to meet people's real needs. And those needs, as I say, are around kind of convenience or around cost or around better jobs or around improved air quality.
So do you think technology will be able to lessen that gap between the current costs and the net zero cost? Net zero being net zero comes at a bit of an additional cost, right? Do you think technology will be able to bridge that gap soon?
I mean, yes, I do. And when you say it comes with an additional cost, I mean, if you look at the cost of renewable power relative to grid power, actually, it doesn't generally come at a significant additional cost. Certainly not in the UK for some sorts of renewable energy, and I guess not in India either. So absolutely, I think technology can help bridge that gap. But it needs to bridge that gap by being great technology that is based on, and it's kind of fundamental, so you know all of this. It's about properly understanding what people want and what people need. So it's having a proper understanding of those needs and then meeting those needs in a net zero way that happens to be better than the alternative, the incumbent way. And technology can definitely bridge that. It's a long way to go, but we need to move quite fast. I think what's quite hopeful, as I say, seeing how challenges are being tackled in India is you have that kind of pace. That it is moving at pace here. You are getting that kind of adoption pace, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, and also I think to a great extent, like you rightly said, right, part of it is likely to get solved by technology, that gap, and part of it would be through inventive business modeling.
Yeah,
right. How do I invent new business models which can be able to fill that final gap where people find it more beneficial to adopt net zero technologies than to continue with conventional technologies.
Yeah.
The next part would be, what will be your advice for startups or organizations in UK who want to explore the Indian market, right? Or to be a part of your Innovate UK program or the India Market Access program?
Again, good question. I mean, I would encourage them to apply them. I think, as we've said, like the pace of change here, the scale of the opportunity here is kind of phenomenal. Now, it's not easy, like we said, but I think if you're willing to put the work in, I think there are massive rewards here, and massive kind of social rewards as well as kind of financial and business rewards. I guess the advice would be, to consider it seriously and significantly. Not to think you know the answer before you get here. I think to come here, recognizing there's a lot to learn, and to be kind of willing to learn, and to put the time in to
maybe to unlearn some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unlearn a lot of what you think you know, and then very humbly put that to one side, and then kind of relearn again. I don't know what else to say. I mean, this is the first of a number of cohorts. We're looking to bring a whole lot more cohorts here, so I would encourage more and more businesses to apply, to do some due diligence beforehand, to kind of be aware of it. Again, just to have looked at the market and to understand where they might start to fit. I don't know, what's your advice? You've done a lot more of this than I have. I should be asking you that question.
So, in my opinion, of course, is that I think India is a totally different problem to solve, right? So if you believe that you can come with a business model template and expect that business model to really play out the way you've envisaged it, it might not work, right? You might even have to reinvent or reimagine your product to suit it for Indian conditions. You might have to reinvent or reimagine your business model to suit for Indian conditions. Unit economics, pricing strategy, go-to-market strategy, identifying your ideal client profile, user profile. I think that entire business modeling piece, you might want to come back. While you might come with a template, and you might use that template as a reference. But I think you should come with a really open mind to be able to tweak that template. You should not be closed to tweaking that template. Right? And come with a mind that this is something that I will have to tweak. Right? This is not set in stone. I think that is a mindset that one should approach the Indian market from. I think you should not try to solve all the problems at the same time. You should probably solve the problem of getting your foot in first, scaling it up in one place, then multi-locate. If you're trying to solve for problems of scale and problems of multi-location at the same time, might not be a good choice.
Pick your battles.
Pick your battles, and pick your battles very sharply. What do you want to engage with? Be very sure what you don't want to engage with. Because you will bleed a lot if you get yourself cut in the wrong place. Right. So you need to really pick where you're going to locate yourself, how you're going to spread your model, how you're going to capture the market, how do you get the inroads into that market. I think all of those pieces will definitely have to be relearned here. And like you rightly said, right, a week or 10 days, 2 weeks might not be totally adequate, right? You can only cram in so much of knowledge, and after that you start getting a overload of what I've learned. Maybe it should be drawn out probably, right, and really be focused on who are the kind of people that I want to meet and who I do not want to meet, right?
And so I think we've been here, you're right, for these 2 weeks, and I think that has been a sort of a process of having to unlearn a little bit, you're right, and just sort of stepping back. I think that's the other thing, just sort of like working out what it is you really know and really don't know, and being willing to kind of open up a lot more. I think it is a longer process, right? So we're not just this. I mean, we didn't really talk about it much in detail earlier, but you know, this is an incubation process that's over a sort of 6 to 8 month period. So we're here for a week, for 2 weeks, and now we've got a phenomenal opportunity for the businesses involved in it to go through the kind of the mentoring program which you've set up, and kind of the learning program for the next 4 or 5 months, and through that they are going to be taken back to basics. And even if at the end of it, it turns out, like you said, that India's not going to work for their model or right now, the opportunity to have gone back and thought in depth with expert guidance and mentorship through all aspects of what their business is and isn't, and how it might work and how they might be tweaking it, I think is a huge opportunity for them no matter what happens next. And then ideally, as I say, at the end of it, I'll work out how it works and where it works and where they go, and then when we come back in 4 months.
So I think this is just the beginning of the program. I think the first is, I think all the startups...
It's the beginning of a long relationship.
It's the beginning of a long relationship, I think. And even the startups will probably realize that when they go back and engage with their mentors that we provide, look at them from different directions, reimagine, re-explore the entire piece, right?
And I think that's a bit of a challenge for them as well, because they're founders, they're like, they want everything now. So that having to, being forced to stop and think and have that long period of time, I think has been, that's something they've learned over the course of the last couple of weeks. But like you say, we do now have this long relationship to kind of develop it a lot further.
Yeah. Thank you so much, James. I think it's been a pleasure having you for a conversation.
Wow.
And
pleasure's mine. I should have said it earlier. I came to see T-Hub in 2020, I think it was. You just sort of opened. I brought this kind of group of businesses over. I was really impressed by kind of what I saw then, and by the facilities you had here, by the opportunities. And I think it was actually meeting the team here. I mean, again, you said why India? A large part of why India is because I met the T-Hub team. Like, if I hadn't met the T-Hub team, I don't think we would necessarily set up an Indian incubator, right? It was because I met the team here. I saw what the opportunities were. I saw what you had and what you could do. I saw that you were running other programs with other nations, and the UK wasn't one of them. And that was like, okay, well, I need to correct that for a start. So that's actually a large part of it. And so, again, thank you to you and to the team for all you've done, and for the kind of, as I say, it's a long relationship I'm looking forward to.
Awesome, James, awesome. Cool. Been great having you for a conversation.
Likewise.
And obviously, we'll keep interacting for the next few months, right?
Years.
Yeah.
You don't get rid of me that easy.
Thanks a lot, James. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Anish.
Bye.